Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode of the Team Infinity podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana. Today, we have a super special guest with us. Not only a fellow teammate, but also the owner or one of the owners of Sharp Gaming that did the Lucky Llama big tournament last weekend that we talked about last week. And so, yeah, I thought it would be a great time to have him on and talk about the store, talk about the shop, talk about kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff, and a lot of the things that we don't necessarily get to see from the hobby side. So, yeah, thanks for joining.
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me. Been looking forward to this.
Long overdue, I will say that. Long overdue. Yeah, so since it's your first time on, we got to give you, the go through the ringer on all of these questions that I always do with the new
Okay.
guests, and so I hope you're ready. These are hard hitting questions. So to start with, what is your favorite Lorcana card? Doesn't have to be a good card. Doesn't have to be like the best card. Just your favorite card.
I think my favorite is the 5-cost Mufasa from Chapter 2.
Okay. The amber that replaces or that that flips on the when he gets banished, the betrayed leader.
Yeah, Betrayed Leader. Yeah. I just think
Um,
he's such a fun build around card.
that is definitely not the answer that I was expecting you to say. So, for I guess you are very much a blue steel truther within the community, and have stuck with it through and through for the most part. I think basically for all the parts. So I was expecting something in that realm. So yeah, why what is it about Mufasa that's makes him your favorite card?
uh, he's just means a lot to me. I was playing Blue Red Control back in Chapter 2, and it was a little bit too much for the locals at the time. And the way I dialed it back was I put together a 60 character Mufasa list, and it was just it kind of played like an aggro deck, but had survivability to the late game, and the bodies were big enough that you could challenge off board, and it was a fun deck. And then my buddy Nick actually took it to Dallas Fort Worth and got top
That's
32
right.
with it
That's
on a
right.
build. Yeah, we worked on that build together, so it's just I don't know, close to home.
Yeah, Mufasa was for locally there in like set 2, 3, and even a little bit of 4 was like a menace. It was one. It was like the sleeper, I think, of the first set champs with Stitch. There were a lot of Mufasas running around, which I did not expect, but it definitely had a very big showing, at least for here us locally. So I
Oh
understand, I
yeah.
guess, what I'm trying to say. But okay, what is your favorite enchanted art from any of the Lorcana cards?
Uh, I'm gonna be real original and just go right back with Mufasa again, but this time it's going to be the blue 8 cost.
Hey, and I
I
love
think
I
it's
love the theme. Yeah, that's a very popular one. That's I think it shows too because I would say 80% of the most expensive enchanteds are all like the playable ones, right? Your Tinkerbell, your Maui, your Sisu. I mean, Sisu's actually dropped quite a bit recently, but Ballroom Sensation, Cinderella. But Mufasa is one of those very few outliers that hasn't ever really seen a ton of play, but has always been at the very tip top of pricing of the enchanteds. And so I think a lot of people will agree with you on that one. The data backs it up at least, but
I think
okay.
right now Mufasa is probably at its like highest playability just because the red menace has been wounded, I guess. So you have a good chance of him living for a turn now
Yeah, no, there seems to
because
be
he will
very
just be.
few coils and ice blocks and stuff running around, which does make him a lot harder to banish. That's for sure. Um, okay, on the Disney specific side, then, what is your favorite Disney movie?
Favorite Disney movie? Um, Probably Lion King. I
I
think
was
Lion
gonna,
King's man. I'm just like
I was gonna say,
Lion
are you
King
gonna
right
stick
into
on
it.
theme here or not? I honestly I really enjoy it, so I'm glad that was your answer. Um, now we're gonna really test you here too. What is your favorite Disney character? If you don't say Mufasa now, I'm gonna be disappointed.
I want to say Boom. I want to say Pumbaa, but I feel like I should say Mufasa.
No, you have to say the truthful answer. So if it is Pumbaa, I mean that's honestly like a not like super deep cut, but everybody else that I ask, it's usually like very much, like the hero of the movie, or like just a very, well known, prince, princess, whatever you want to consider it, from whatever they pick. And so I like that answer a lot. I mean, it's, just fun, just, super fun character, not super serious. So I mean, that's just, how can you not like Pumbaa?
So one of my favorite things about Disney movies is the comic relief characters like Hey Hey and Pumbaa.
Oh
Like
yeah,
just like
yeah,
really like extra out there characters. I love those.
yeah. That's a good. I mean, there always is like the sidekick, or the, like you said, the comic relief, or the funny, kind of, I guess, like little tertiary character that, just is always there for a good laugh, and it does make them a lot of fun because, for kids don't always necessarily get it, but there's definitely some very serious themes in them, and so you do need that comic relief for sure. And then lastly, what is your favorite Disney song?
I think I'm going to go off theme here and say A Whole New World.
Ooh,
I think it's
I
pretty
mean,
good.
that's definitely one. That's definitely always towards the top of my playlist, and so I can't disagree with that one at all. But it's really interesting. You've definitely been the most consistent. Most people are all over the board on their cards, and then when it comes to the movies, I would say like 60% of people, say one movie and then a character from a different movie. So it's Lion King's my favorite movie, but Peter Pan is my favorite character, and so it's just really cool to see, like, if you're like really truly like, I love this movie and all the characters, everything about it. So I do, think it's really cool that you have, the Mufasa all the way through, and then Lion King and everything. So, yeah. Okay. So I guess then tell me a little bit about your TCG history and what got you into Lorcana, and how you made, the jump into playing.
Okay, yeah. So I started out playing Pokemon. It was just completely neighborhood rules. Like no one actually knew how to play. It was just like
Yeah.
someone in the play group was like, "Oh, I know how," and then we all just believed him because no one could
Yeah. Remember those
fact check
days.
them. So, and then I actually learned how to play Pokemon whenever I bought the Game Boy game. I called it Game Boy Black or Pokemon Black, and
Yeah.
it was like the actual TCG, and it kind of walked you through how to play it and stuff. So I got really big into that, and then I kind of naturally graduated into Yu-Gi-Oh, and then um, I actually didn't learn how to play any other card games until after I started the shop. And when I started the shop, I learned how to play Magic, uh, pretty much within like 3 months of starting it. So yeah, it was quick.
Yeah. So
And
you've
then
been all over the place then. You've basically done it all.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I've learned a couple of games since Magic. I learned how to play Keyforge. I learned how to play um, Weiss Schwartz, all the Bandai games, and then whenever Lorcana came in, I had two starter decks, and I brought them home to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, uh, let's crack these open and play against each other and see what it's like." And then she ended up whooping me, but uh, she fell in love with it, so it wasn't a complete loss. And it's her first TCG,
Cool.
and we've just been loving it together, and um, we've done way more than I thought I ever would. I've always played fairly competitively. I've never like traveled to pro events and stuff like that, but we've been doing that for Lorcana, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, I mean, did the local scene influence you in that at all? I feel like we've got a pretty tight knit, group. Between, you guys are, about an hour south of the guys up, north where we are, but I think, I think of us as basically one big community at this point, because most of the players up there or down there come up here to play set champs, and we go down there to play set champs and vice versa. So did that, help, motivate you to get into the more competitive stuff, or was it just that both of you were playing, and you both wanted to just keep doing it and have fun with it, or what was the thought process there?
Uh, so whenever we first got into it, basically just it was during the craze. We didn't even get very much chapter one. Like we got such little amount of chapter one that we I had sold it all on pre-sale. So Lexi and I didn't even get to like get our hands on the game at all until
Dang.
Floodborne came out. I know, and I don't even think we got it at the initial release of Floodborne. It was November of
I
2023,
think that was the
and
second wave. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was the second wave of set two, and we finally got some uh, structure decks, and we started playing that way. And then our local scene started out really big. I mean, we had like 25 people coming to locals, and pretty much everyone was on starter deck level because no one had any booster
I
boxes.
remember those days.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those games where we all just kind of started at very, very fair level playing field, and then people just slowly got more competitive and more competitive,
Yeah.
and you just had to adapt or die. So we just kept getting more competitive, and then I think whenever store champs hit the Stitch ones, we tried our hand at uh, playing a bunch of them. But I think we only brought home 2 Stitches and 1 playmat. So, and it was runner-up playmat. So we weren't extremely competitive then. Whereas now it's like it doesn't matter what set champ I'm going to, I'm getting at least a promo and probably a mat.
Yeah. Got to start somewhere, right? I mean, um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, no, I think it's cool because everybody, has a different journey and how we got here and everything. And so it's cool to see, you guys, you have a little bit more of a diverse background in it. And Lexi, got into Lorcana to, I would imagine help motivate you stay on this one as well. And so it's just cool to see, how this has all brought us together. And yeah, I agree. Back in those days, it was really rough, but you heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. A store owner that doesn't take all the stuff for themselves actually like pre-sells it all to the community. So that's what we like to see, which is one of the main things I want to talk about today. But um, okay, we kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but I always like to ask the guests a question when if they have a card that they want to highlight when we come on. And so I asked you before we jumped in here if there was a card you wanted to talk about, and so this one is more on your blue steel or steel specifically thoughts. So Dr. Calico, not super meta, but that's what I like about this is because everybody brings something, a little different, a little off the wall, and we get to talk about cards that aren't always, at the forefront of the meta. And so what is it about Dr. Calico that you like so much?
I see a lot of potential with him. Uh, I don't. I think if they print more cards similar to him, they'll definitely see play. Like a few things that I might change about him is if he was like a 5 cost to where he could sing for 5 and maybe had like an extra, power or extra pip.
Yeah.
Um, he's fine as is. Don't get me wrong. The resist 2 seems really good because he right out of the box he survived Zeus, and
Yeah.
that's what you want to see. You don't want to be hitting for 3 into songs, however, because whenever he's sideways, they'll just
Yeah.
clap back and then Rapunzel value.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with some of the things I was thinking with him is uh, back before Blue Steel got canceled, but you could go Dr. Calico into Cogs, and then he has Resist 3, and then if you already have like a popsicle down, he pretty much is just alive for the rest of the game because he's never going to take any damage.
Yeah.
And I also think like just playing him in like maybe an Amber Steel build, uh, and just like healing him with Rapunzel back up to 4, and then giving him that Resist 2 back, I feel like would
Sure.
be pretty strong plays.
Yeah,
But
I guess I should have started off with this. This is the Steel Dr. Calico, the 4 cost inkable, 3/4 stat line. It has resist 2 when he has no damage. But yeah, you said something really interesting there to start with, which I actually think a lot more than maybe I should, but that if he was more expensive, he'd actually be better. There's a lot of thresholds that you cross, like Singer 3, is very important. There's a lot of big 3 cost songs. There's a lot of big 5 cost songs. And you obviously have, Be Prepared at 7. There's a lot of times where I'm like, man, Shark would be even better if he was a 7 cost card because then, he could just sing your Be Prepared instead of having to like hard cast him after you play the Shark. I don't know if that's actually good or not. I mean, you want Shark out as early as you can. So him being 6 is probably like where most players would want them to be. But yeah, it's just an interesting thought that more, just basically adding, the cost of the card. And I'm not saying this scenario specifically, but in general, there are some cases where if you make them more expensive, they do technically become more valuable because they can sing more important songs depending on the build and the style of deck that you have. And so, yeah, I thought that was a really interesting take too.
Yeah, unfortunately, Zeus isn't too popular in Blue Steel. About the only
Yeah.
two Blue Steel songs he could sing is "How Far I'll Go" and Zeus. And I would say zero people in Blue Steel run "How Far I Go," but I'm sure there's someone out there who started it. And then Zeus is normally like a one or two of. So him being a 5 cost singer to sing, Swords, Wheel, Let It Go, it would just have been better in that sense. I was actually
Yeah.
going to run this card, and then they spoiled Bianca, and I was like, okay, Bianca is so much better because it's still ramp on 2 Bianca. I have a 6 singer now, but the downside to Bianca is she dies to Zeus, so I need
Sure.
some kind of
Sure.
blend of Calico and Bianca to just really be top of the litter there of the blue steel pile.
Yeah, speaking of Bianca, I feel like she was like the first like iteration of what looks like they want blue steel to be the new like or the new archetype for blue steel to be. With all of the dual inks that we got this set, and all having a lot of ally synergies, this seems to be the only one that's like really had any impact this set. But just like some of the vanished characters and some of the Jafar stuff that we saw this set, I imagine that they continue to expand on the allies. And so it's interesting to see or to hear your thoughts on Miss Bianca as well, because I do think that she's obviously a really really strong character. But in my again, this is like just I'm just throwing stuff in the air right now, but this very much feels like it's the start of a new like quote archetype within Blue Steel, because Kiwi's already kind of like got its own thing going on. And then if you like basically merge the Kiwi and ally work that they're trying to push, then maybe like you have something super special. I know that's why I've never played Blue Steel in the past, and I know that's not necessarily the kind of deck that you like to play either. But as a Blue Steel person, what are your thoughts on like the kind of the ally synergies that they're pushing going forward?
Uh, I honestly, this is going to be kind of pessimistic. I just kind of wish that they would stick with the theme because Blue Steel was the heroes. Well, it was
Well,
the items, and then
that's
it was
fair.
the heroes. Now
Yeah,
it's the allies.
that's
I
fair.
just, if they were consistent with it, maybe there'd already be something. Instead of just, hey, we don't know what Blue Steel identity is, so we're just going to change it every set and just hope something sticks.
No, honestly,
But
that's a really fair point. Yeah.
one of the most OP things with Bianca is the turn 2 Tipo into turn 3 Bianca, and I really really loved that synergy.
Yeah.
But still doesn't stop a Ursula 2 from singing Zeus,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
No, no, it doesn't. Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be something there with the allies. So it's kind of cool that you brought that up too. Blue Steel definitely is going to need to reinvent itself. Hopefully we will be in a place where once we start getting reveals, I would imagine we're going to get the start of reveal season will be next week on May. What is it? May 6th, I think. That they said
Yeah.
they're going to have the big announcement date. So excited about that. Like I said, I imagine that we're going to start to get to see a lot of new cards. So excited to see what we're going to have coming when it comes to the Reign of Jafar. But yeah, for now we've got to live with the Allies Blue Steel and the Kiwi Blue Steel, because that's all that is really even semi-performing at these days. But yeah, okay, let's go ahead and jump into the main stuff today. So we talked about your TCG history. It's cool to see that you have a lot of experience, and you've kind of been all over the testing grounds on a lot of different games. And so, is that what made you interested in owning a store, or what made you interested in going this route, or what was it about it that made you want to do this?
Uh, I kind of always had like the entrepreneurial spirit. Like over half my family own their own businesses.
Oh wow.
Just like my parents do hydraulics. My aunt and uncle own a restaurant. My other uncle owns a detailing business. My aunt owns a dance studio. My grandparents started a restaurant. So it's just been kind of like
That's so cool.
one of those things. Yeah, just seeing how hard my family worked and, the rewards of that work paying off has just always been like very attractive to me. And I didn't always know like what business I was going to start. I've thought about like other, retail stuff, and I kind of, I kind of just started it as a hobby. I didn't really think it was gonna turn into a business, and I was just kind of like buying and selling cards, and I just it just kept growing and growing, and for better or for worse, it turned out great. But I definitely don't suggest doing it the way that I did it, because I traded it for a hobby for far too long, and I needed to business it up, baby, because it was a lot to get under control after everything was already rolling.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point actually. So at what point did you decide to say like, hey, this is clearly big enough to, turn into like a real thing and not, have it just treated as a hobby? Was it just like the the amount of like time it was taking? Was it was it you were like, oh, I could actually make a living doing this, or was it just you started to enjoy it that much, or like or a combination of everything, I guess? But yeah, like what was it that was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
So I was just buying and selling cards, and then I started selling them online. And then when I was selling them online, I was having to buy like sleeves and top loads, like just basic stuff to ship in.
Sure.
And to save money, I was buying it by the pallet. And then
Holy
yeah, and then
dang.
to help pay for that, I was selling sleeves and top loads to other people, and just letting like making a little
Sure.
bit of margin there. And then it occurred to me, hey, why don't I try and put the sleeves and top loads online? And that actually took off just as much as everything else did.
Wow.
And I just started filling out my catalog with more and more supplies, like binders, card sleeves, deck boxes, and then uh, eventually, whenever I hit enough volume that I was considered a distributor, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this out of my house. And I ended up, uh, let's see, before I moved it out of my house, I had it because it all started in my spare bedroom, and then it took over my other spare bedroom, and then it took over my kitchen, and then it took over
Ooh.
my dining room and my living room and my garage, and then I had a storage unit. I rented a
Wow.
wing of my parents' warehouse out, and then uh, whenever it started creeping into my master bedroom, I was like, all right, it's got to get out of my house. And I was already paying rent, for the warehouse and um, the storage unit. I was like, just a few bucks more, and I can get a rinky-dink place. So that's what I did, and I moved in to a building in 2017.
Wow.
It was pretty big, actually. It was 4,500 square feet. 3,000 of it was warehouse, and 1,500 of it was office space. And I just redid the office space as retail, and uh,
Sweet.
that place lasted 2.5 years. And then we moved into the location that I'm in now, and we've been there ever since. And we're looking this month or next month to purchase the building. So hopefully,
Oh
I'm there
wow.
for you know
Sweet.
a good
Um
a good amount of years to come.
I would think so. It sounds like you started off great. So everything started off online then, and then you once you got that big and you had to basically move out of your house is when you started the retail, the storefront side of it.
Yeah, which that's one of the things that I'm like extremely thankful for, is that I started the online side part, or the online side first, because um, if I was doing the retail day to day, there's just no way that I would ever be able to have time to do the online part, because retail just it's so much time,
Yeah.
like events and employees and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
My dog attacking me, but okay. Thank you, Jax.
um so yeah, like at once you what was the change like then once you got the store, you know, from the storefront side? Was that when, you know, you really started to expand into like, you know, carrying all the stuff and you know, get into the type of store we know today? You know, what was the transition like from like that next phase to you having the store to like hosting tournaments and, you know, running events and doing things like that? Is that something that you were always interested in doing and the store enabled that, or did that come later down the line?
Yeah, so whenever I started out like case breaking and then just like
Oh,
buy sell
yeah.
trade singles.
Yeah.
And whenever I caught on really big with the supply side, I actually put a stop on the on the buy sell trade of the singles and case breaking, just because it was a lot of time and
Yeah.
sometimes you could lose money if you pulled bad or whatever.
Sure.
And I the plan was always whenever I get brick and mortar, then I would try and um, get back into all that because that was the part of the business that I like really enjoyed. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love deck boxes, sleeves, and everything else, but it's not as fun as the actual
No,
games.
of course not.
And
Of course not.
uh, so I moved in November of 2017, and it took me a while to move. I was working a day job at the same time, so I was like day job in the morning, and then of the evening, I would fill all my online orders, and then after I got done with that, then I would try and like hang up slat
Jeez.
wall and put together like computers and tables and all that. And I kind of got lucky uh, that there was another store in town that was going out of business, and their last day was January 31st of 2018. So it was like 2 months after I started, and anyways, I had locals for Magic February 1st at my store, and everything was ready to go.
Wow.
So it was nice. At first, so I had like 2 months from the time that I moved, or 3 months, I guess, from the time that I moved in to get everything set up, and then also be like into all the softwares that you need for like doing events through Event Link and stuff for WotC. And I got all that together. I had a bunch of people just coming in and asking me about Warhammer. They're like, "Hey, do you have Warhammer? Are you going to do Warhammer?" And that's kind of what got me into Warhammer. Uh, but let's see, I think Yu-Gi-Oh was the next organized play that I started, and then Pokemon. Whenever I hired someone to run my front desk, they were big into Pokemon, and they helped me uh, get through all that because it's actually harder to get into Pokemon than the other ones because you need a EO and a judge, and neither one of them can be associated with the store. They have to be like individuals.
Oh wow. Yeah. So yeah, you just kind of, you know, continue to grow as the store grew. That's cool. So then, you know, fast forward to Lorcana release. Was that just, you know, the next big thing? You know, and from the store perspective, it was, hey, you know, we just want to make sure we're, you know, servicing all the different TCGs that the community might want. Or was it something that you were personally interested in? I mean, obviously, like you said, you know, you guys started playing with the starter decks, you know, relatively early on, but uh, what was the decision to, you know, try to jump into Lorcana too?
So one of the things I've learned, I guess, just from growing up around my family is like each year, if you're not growing, you're shrinking, and if you're shrinking,
Yeah.
you're going to go out of business. So one of the things that I challenge myself with is I try to pick up new games every year. Um,
Oh, that's great.
of course, money is a constraint, so I can't try every new game. So we do try to research it the best that we can. Everything is a crapshoot, honestly. There's been so many games I've invested in that just like fall apart, and they have all the markers of a good success. It's just like something goes wrong and just it dies. Like MetaZoo was one of them. Battle Spirit Saga was another one of them. Star Wars is looking to be one.
Yeah.
Um, but Lorcana was. one of the ones that we had great success with, and it's actually it's up there with Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic, One Piece, Digimon. Like it's holding its own. It's the sales numbers are good. Like you can't argue with the numbers, and the numbers say that it's a good game.
Yeah, that's very true, and I like to hear that from a very um, excited player that wants this to be around forever as well. So it's good. It's good to know. So yeah, what was your the thought process then from the store's perspective when they announced like the store set champs and all of the more organized play type stuff around the stores? Was that just an automatic like, yep, we got to get in on this too then obviously? And how does like all of the like the logistics behind the scenes go into like making sure all of that can run smoothly?
Yeah. So one of the things that's always important to a store is the organized play. The organized play is like a huge marker of a game success, which is kind of like why we bet on Battle Spirit Saga to survive. Is because whenever it came back to the states, they said, "Hey, there's $1 million um, prize bounty for this game. Just get people to play it." So I was like, okay, if they're willing to invest $1 million in a tournament for a year, I'm willing to invest,
Sure.
into their product and their brand. And, anyways, it wasn't enough. It fell apart. But uh, we've kept that same philosophy with all the other games that we carry. Like we do RCQs for Magic, we do um, all the big tournaments for Pokemon, and whenever that they announce the set champs, we were like, I hope we get one. And we applied for it immediately. Like 20 minutes after they sent us the email, we were in there, just like,
Love it.
please take our store. Like we are willing,
Yeah.
and we ended up getting it. So I was super excited.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I was excited because I was, when they announced all that stuff too, just as a local player, I was afraid that, I don't know, didn't know how like limited it would be or how, stringent they would be on, allowing people to do that. And so I was just glad that, all the stores, or I think at the time, the vast majority of stores were able to get one so that we did have, again, to your point, like that's the organized play is what supports the game. And so, wanting to continue the local scene to flourish, that definitely was part of it. What kind of like behind the scenes stuff does it take to put on these? Is it what kind of like planning and execution and all the stuff that us as players we just get to come in and walk in and pay the entry fee and play. But what kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't get to see that just kind of really makes a good store makes a good store from a just a normal store.
There's a ton that goes into it. Honestly, it was a lot more because whenever you start out a business, you make a business case, and
Sure.
I wish I had saved my business case. I probably got it around here somewhere, but oh my god, I didn't. I was so naive, man. I didn't know anything, and I've learned a lot, and thankfully, like uh, things have gone well enough that I was able to learn from my mistakes and not just close the door. And it depends on the size tournament. So like if it's just locals, not much is required. Like we just gotta uh, set up the event software and schedule it, and pretty much like Magic and I'm hoping that Lorcana will have something like this soon. But like Magic, it goes out on their website, and if you want to search events near me, you can, and it'll pop up our store and then what we're holding. But the bigger the event becomes, the more prep work it takes. So like the Stitch Championship, stuff like that, we have to advertise for a while. We have to apply for. We have to get approved. We have to receive our stuff on time. There's a lot of stores who didn't get their stuff on
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Um, you have to make sure that you have people who can judge the event, um, and that doesn't always have to be like super serious. Like you don't have to go like buy a judge, but at least have someone on staff who knows the rules and can answer a question and settle disputes and stuff like that.
Of course.
Uh, just pretty much the rest of it is just um, good advertising and making sure that the price is right to where it covers your costs and doesn't. upset, the player base, because the player base is your customers, and you don't want them angry at you.
Yeah. You brought up a good one though, with some of the Lorcana stuff though. The Play Hub is what, like, I mean, what, a month away at this point? They launched the like the signups for that, as they switch off of Melee and go to the Play Hub. Is there anything behind the scenes that you guys have seen from that yet, or is it just still, just like the normal portal for the players to go sign up and create their accounts, or has there been any communication outside of the normal, hey, we're switching, which they've talked about for a while now? Just kind
Yeah,
of curious at what
it
that transition is going to look like.
same, honestly.
Well,
uh,
hey, that's an answer.
the
I mean,
it's it kind of feels half baked. Like I don't want to be negative about Lorcana at all, but uh, I feel like they pulled the trigger on it a little early. Um, so much so that, like, we have this 8K coming up, and we didn't feel comfortable putting it in Play Hub. We're like, we're gonna do it on Melee, even though Melee has its own list of issues. Like, at least we know we can receive payments through it. I don't know if I can do that through Play
yeah,
Hub or not.
yeah, that's fair.
And then there's a bunch like there's been no communication really. It took us a really long time to even get into PlayHub,
It
and
did.
it's supposed to be like this seamless process of, hey, just send us your Melee username, we'll check you out, and we'll vet all your data and copy it over. And that didn't happen. We
Hmm.
we tried several times to try and get it to happen, and anyways, we finally had to, like, get a hold of a representative and just walk them through it and provide them with everything they need. But that being said, I am hopeful that it fixes a lot of the issues that we have with Melee right now.
Yeah, I would again, to your point. I mean, it's like so tough to test that stuff, and so I would imagine there will be problems in the beginning, but hopefully longer term, since they are the ones managing the platform and taking like the close care of it, that will help push them into the future once a couple of those call it 2 sets down the road, where everything is fully fleshed out, and makes it a much better experience than it is today. Because to your point, like, it's impossible to search. Like, I mean, this hasn't happened yet, but imagine you're traveling during set champ season, and it's like, okay, well, let's see if there's a set champs where I'm traveling. Like, you don't know the area, you don't know the stores. I mean, Melee is extremely unreliable to find if there is anything. And so, yeah, I think the Play Hub, in the long term perspective at least, will be a very good transition. But yeah,
Yeah, and
no, go ahead.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
know if this is true or not, but someone told me that the reason the DLCs have been capped at 2K is due to Melee constraints.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if we can get DLCs of more than 2,000 people through PlayHub, I think that's a huge W for the community. I
That is a
know that,
massive win.
yeah, I know that that's been a huge issue. Just people not pulling the trigger who wanted to go because they're like, oh, well, they sold out in the first 2 seconds that it went live. And, you know, I've gone to several DLCs that were sold out. And then whenever player meeting happens, guess what? We're down to 1,800 people. And it's
Yep.
just sad that,
Yep.
those 300 slots could have been filled.
Absolutely. But yeah, you kind of started to touch on like the next phase. So we talked about organized play and weeklies, and then kind of getting into set champs and organizing just the normal cadence of tournaments. But yeah, for those of you who didn't listen to last week's episode, or I would imagine everybody listening to this is familiar with the Lucky Llama Smackdown and Zan, Jafar Wheel that was at your store. And so tell me how all of that came to be and what your thought process was and why you wanted to put on what I would be very confident saying has been the biggest tournament in Arkansas, and definitely the biggest tournament in our area.
Yeah, so it was a lot of work, honestly, and we didn't have very much time. We partnered with Lucky Llama, which uh, they've been longtime customers of ours. They've been customers with us for a year. We met them at locals for Lorcana. This is how
Oh wow.
crazy this game is.
Yeah.
And they started streaming case breaks on Whatnot, and they became wildly successful with that. And they were just cleaning me out of Lorcana. I mean, like, every week they were buying cases of Lorcana,
Wow.
and they they do a lot of, like, trades and stuff. Like, they are all over Facebook Marketplace. Just finding these amazing collections. and they came across this PSA Enchanted Elsa, and they're like, "Hey, you know what would be really great is if we put this price support up, and we partnered with you guys, and we did a tournament." And I was like, "I would love to do that." I They didn't know it at the time, but it just happened to align with my own personal goals of what I wanted the shop to accomplish this year. And one of the things that I wanted it to accomplish was a 10K. And we had already ran a 1K in January of this year. And then this is kind of like a 3K ish.
Yep.
We ended up giving out, I think, $3,700 in price support. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was a pretty big tournament. And they picked the date, which was this past Saturday, and that constrained us with a lot of stuff that we could do as far as like advertising and stuff. But I mean, my wife, she hit up Facebook, she was on X, she was on um, basically everywhere, and I was on all the Discord, so I was in every Discord just saying, "Hey, I'm a shop owner. I'm holding this tournament. I'd love to see you there." I started messaging all the pro teams. I was like, "Hey, doing this tournament. Will you help me advertise it?" Because a lot of pro teams do that. They just have like this event ticker, in their
Yeah,
Discord
sure.
or whatever. And I would have never guessed that pro teams would have started showing up, but
Yeah, they
they
did.
did. So
Yeah, they
I was
did.
just, blessed beyond imagine. And I like right out of the gate, as soon as I started talking to these pro teams, I realized how big it was going to be, and I was like, man, I gotta, if a tree falls in a forest and no one sees it, did it really happen? Type of thing was the thought going through my
Right.
head. So I was like, I gotta get streamers in the building, and luckily through the Blue Steel family, I know JD, and I sent him a message over Discord. I was like, hey, I heard you're, trying to do more and more broadcasting. I was like, how much money would it take for you to come down here to Arkansas and do this live and in person? And he's just been the greatest blessing. Like the guy came down here, he used all of his own equipment. He set it all up. I helped him run wires, but that was about it. But it was almost entirely his brainchild of how everything was going to look.
Dang. Shout out
And
JDZ, man.
yeah, he was him and Dan from TFM. They both put in the work that Friday and Saturday, and the stream looked amazing. I thought,
Yeah, sure
especially
did.
we had no production crew. It was literally just JD and Dan, and they knocked it out of the ballpark. Uh,
Yep.
it was amazing quality in my opinion.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job for sure. And yeah, I mean, I love the thought on. I mean, again, I feel like I'm definitely biased. I imagine you are a little bit too, but it definitely felt like that was the central point of the Lorcana world there for probably 2 weeks. Just like the lead up to it, and then slowly but surely, to your point, like more people said they were coming. Obviously, Mo is a teammate in the local, and so he was going from the beginning, which is a massive name. Had a couple other big names talking about it, and then Zan finally said he's coming, and that was just obviously blew it up even bigger than I would have expected it to be. But yeah, it turned out fantastic. Did you
Yeah,
expect it would be
Zan
about
was
100 people, or did you? I got you finish your thought, and then we'll move on to that one.
Zan was super graceful on his podcast. He was talking about how the owner of Sharps reached out to him and made a convincing argument for him to come. Like I wasn't
I
begging
did I
him.
did hear that.
It's like, come on, Zan, please. It means so much to me.
um,
But yeah, he ended up coming, and I think it brought a lot to the tournament. I
for
think
sure.
it I think it made some people's dreams come true, and maybe nightmares come true of being able to sit across from Dan. And everyone, like, super nice guy. I'd never met him in person, and it was amazing. He
Ha-
signed my foil Japanese whole new world. So
hey, can't
yeah,
complain about that at all.
had to fangirl a little.
I think a lot of us did. So it ended up being 97 people. Is that bigger than you expected it to be? I think when you guys announced it, like like in my eyes, I was like, if it gets to 60, 70, I think that'll be a success. And again, I like not financially, but just from like a a publicity standpoint and like where I kind of expected to go. And when it ended up at 100, I was like, dang, they did a fantastic job getting that out there, obviously, because that's just a ton of people.
Yeah. So our largest tournament for Lorcana was the Sit Championship, and it was like 45-ish. So I knew we could at least get that, even though like a lot of the people from back then don't have stepped away from the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But I figured whenever Lucky Llama came to me and asked, because we were trying to decide on a price point for the tournament, and of course we were both like willing to take a loss on it, but um, obviously that's not the goal.
No,
And
never is.
we decided that there would probably be about 60 people who would show up, and with
Okay.
that we decided $60 a head. You know, it would be uh, 3,600 if 60 people showed up, which would cover the price support, and then all of our labor would be donated basically. And then we ended up bringing in streamers and bringing in judges and stuff like that. So uh, we ended up spending quite a bit on the tournament, but I think overall it was a huge positive. And I would have never guessed that we got almost triple digits. I think we were at 99 enrolled before the player meeting. So,
Wow.
and then after
Yeah.
the player meeting, it dropped to only two, so 97.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess our initial thoughts were kind of on par there, and it definitely, blew them out of the water and definitely showed that there is the capacity to have that type of a big tournament here. And so, yeah, you guys announced, I guess going into like the last big point we want to make is we want to keep the momentum going. I want big tournaments in my backyard. I know you want them here as well, just from a fan standpoint and an owner standpoint. But yeah, so you guys did announce, the 8K for July. And so I guess, you kind of answered some of the questions already, but it sounds like it was one of your goals this year to get a couple big tournaments in the store. And so is this just the continuation of that and, just wanting to like continue to push the limits, or what are the thoughts on, continuing the massive, tournament output?
Yeah, so this one was the next step. I didn't want to go too big just because May 6th hasn't happened yet. So I don't know what I'm scheduling around. Ravensburger, please fix that. Please. I'm trying to help your game. Help me,
That's a
help
good point.
you.
That's a good point.
And I think I picked a safe date. I'm not sure. But I kind of guess that the next set chance is going to be in August because I believe they're on a 3-month rotation.
Yeah.
But the DLCs is still a crap shot, and we're dedicated to doing the AK weekend. And I told Lexi, I said, hey, we're wanting to continue doing these types of things, and the best way we're going to be able to get the word out is when we have 100 people who are all interested in coming to the next one,
Very true.
letting them know about it then. So
Yeah.
that's what we ended up doing. I think it caught people off guard because I kept having people catch me, between rounds. Hey, when was that? When was that? AK, and then I'd tell them the date again. And they say, okay, I'm coming. Sign me up. So we got it
Yeah.
live on the Melee now. So if you're wanting to show up, it's ready. It's 60 until 2 weeks out, and then it'll be 75 a person. So
Yeah. And
make sure you register early.
it's Sharp Gaming on social, right? Um,
Yeah, it changes. A lot of them we added FSM just because there's some other sharp
uh,
gamings out there.
I should have had
Like I
this pulled
believe
up too.
our Instagram and our X is sharp gaming FSM.
But yeah, I mean, it is live, and obviously we are kind of, I would say pitching slash marketing this a little bit right now, but yeah, I mean, to the point of that kind of jokingly made there that there isn't really the organized play support currently. I think they made like the 2-minute announcement today that there's going to be a bunch of stuff announced on the 6th, and thank you for being patient and working with us and everything. I feel like they kind of had that moment of you switching from your master bedroom to a storefront in these last like 6 months, and as frustrating as that is for us, because we obviously want to play. I think that this grew a lot faster than they initially expected, and the desire for the DLCs, is obviously off the chain and way more than they ever expected, because they set the capacity at 500 initially. And so the hope, is obviously still there that they, are going to get everything done sooner rather than later. And just obviously selfishly, I want to go play. So I hope it's done. But yeah, I guess all that to say, like, in the meantime, we're, just trying to keep things going. And so we, want to do what we can as a community to help support everybody as well. But yeah, here's the Sharp Gaming on X. And as he said, the melee is live, and so you can go register now if you're interested in getting signed up. And yeah, I mean, last time Zan came, I didn't know this, but Mo after the fact said that I think his entire top 16 run was DLC day 2 people. It was, I think his first round was like top 64 Atlanta, and then it was like top 32 at Fort Worth, and then I don't remember the top 4. But
Cody
then
and Mo was his top 4. Are you talking about Zan or Mo?
no, Mo. I know Mo specifically. I know said that he was like after the fact. He was like, "Oh, so I just found out that like my entire top 16 run was day tours." And then I don't remember
his
top
top
4, but
4
then yeah,
was
Zan was obviously.
Steven, the winner of the Hunter Burton Memorial Tournament.
Oh, that's what it was. That's right. That's what it was.
Yeah,
And
he's
so
an
yeah,
excellent player as
yeah. So
well.
then Hunter Burton, it was the beginning of this set, and it was like a 80-person tournament, and then obviously Zan in the finals is very well renowned, and so we had not only a high quantity turnout, but a high quality turnout as well. And so yeah, it was crazy to see the amount of talent in the building and everything going along. And so if you want some really competitive, fun games, come down and see if you can beat Team Inkfinity, because we said this last week, but we definitely showed out too. We had 4 people. I keep saying 4. I'm Brandon. I'm sorry. I'm saying 3.5. Brandon's technically not on the team. He's just a massive friend of the team, and so
Yeah,
3.5. But we're counting him as one of our own because he did top as well. And so, yeah, top 16 for all 4 of the people playing. So that was just super exciting to see, especially given how stacked the lobby was for the day. But yeah, it's gonna keep getting bigger, and I love to see I've always been jealous of South Florida and all the stuff that SSG does because they have so many, consistent big tournaments. And so hope we can keep supporting you guys and get that same level of, involvement here, because it's just so much fun to play in these big events.
yeah, that's the goal. I'm hoping it's like SSG, CCS, and Sharp Gaming. I hope we're
Yeah.
gonna be. They're gonna shorten it to SG, and then everyone's gonna get us confused with SSG, and it's gonna be in a couple of years. But I'm here
that,
for it.
yeah, that'd be a good one for sure. But, yeah, no, it's super cool to just hear all the growth of the shop, and just like kind of see some of the background behind the scenes stuff, because obviously again as players and just the community members, you don't see all of the stuff that goes into making a store run. And I wish at my core I'm an entrepreneur too. The problem is that I have this really massive, like, I guess, like, fear threshold that I can't overcome to like go out and do something on my own.
Yeah,
And so I've never
it's
done it myself, but I've always just really admired the people that do. And so it's really cool to just hear kind of how all that came together.
hey, with the team and the podcast, I'd say you already are an entrepreneur.
I mean, a little bit, we're getting there, but everybody pitches in on the team. It's definitely just, again, like the community and everybody involved here is just, it wanted to make us put our name on the map. Because again, like you said, from the beginning of your first set champs to all of the locals and everybody getting better. I mean, we have so many day 2s on the team, and it's all local people, and so it's as fun as it is to have a team and to be able to go compete at these events, it's even more fun to do it with everybody local. So yeah, it's been a blast from that respect. But yeah, I mean, if there's any other thing you'd like to talk about from the store, or from play or games or whatever, we can wrap it up. But I think that's kind of covers all of the history there.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was pretty proud about, whenever I went on TFM Dan's podcast before the Lucky Llama event, I told him, I was like, "Hey, come out to Arkansas. It's a sleeper. Like, we have a lot of good players here,
Yeah.
and so we're extremely competitive." And he's like, I hear that about every person I talk to. They talk about how competitive their locals are. And I was like, "Hey," I was like, "I'm not capping. Like,
Nope.
they're good." And then we had I think 6 of the top 16, and then all 4 or 3.5 Inkfinity members converted, and then um, we had Mo in the finals, and we had two or three locals. We had two locals in the top four,
Yeah,
and
Cody top 4 as well.
yeah. So I mean, out of a 100-man tournament,
We backed
tops,
it up. We backed it
yeah,
up.
back to back. But there was also some really good areas that came. I think Memphis did really well in our tournament. Kansas City, I think they had two or three guys,
Yeah.
and Fort Worth, Dallas had a couple of
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
showings, and then uh, Zan from Atlanta, so or Georgia, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I guess one thing that I haven't really mentioned, but it seems like because we made a Discord for the last event, and it was just like, hey, we're gonna plan everything here. We're gonna put all of the details here. We're gonna keep everyone on the same page here. During the event, if there's anything that needs to be like widespread known, put it in the Discord. We'll all see it. Add us, whatever. And we've all kind of talked after the event, and just like criticisms, constructive criticisms, obviously,
Sure.
and stuff like that. And it seems like the everyone that we worked with is interested in coming back for our July event. So
Mm.
um, we're going to be streaming the July event as well, schedules permitting. But uh, if it's not the same streamers, then I'll find someone who's well known in the community to do it. And I think that's going to bring a lot to the event, and I think it'll help everybody locally get their names out there and stuff like that. So
For sure.
uh,
Love it.
yeah, I love the streaming. It's just the the 15-hour long entertainment is just top tier.
Oh, it was. I mean, they did a fantastic job for sure. And like I said, a couple minutes ago, the community is really keeping the game afloat right now. It's so crazy to see that we've all just banded together and said we love this game, we want to keep this going, and everybody in their own capacities doing their own thing. The content creators are putting out the stuff. The players are continuously pushing the meta and coming up with new ideas. The store owners like yourself are supporting it by giving big events for us to look forward to. And so it's just crazy to see that everybody's continuously being involved. And then that just gives me so much confidence that once we do finally get all of these organized play events and stuff rolled out from the official team, that it'll just be as big as it possibly can be, and way bigger than last year, because the amount of growth and community that we've seen has just been second to none. And so I love to see it, and I love everybody doing what they can. And so yeah, we appreciate all the stuff that you're doing for all of us as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a good I guess finger on the pulse to
Yeah.
see that there's no information at all about the Pro Tour this year. And we had set 7 hit our stores, and it was sold out in a week. And it was so bad that we had to go buy secondary market boxes just to
Dang.
hold like winner boxes and stuff for this Lucky Llama tournament, and
Dang.
to have like the current set to give out for prize support. And
Yeah.
there's that doesn't that doesn't happen in other games. Other games, when there's no competitive stuff announced, people shy away for a little bit. They save their money, wait for the payback to happen. But I think just between like uh, CCS, SSG, and what we're trying to do, I think between that and people's just love for Lorcana, I think that's really helping you know push through these
Agree.
non-Pro Tour sets.
Agree.
And um, I'm just really excited for the rest of this year. I've been saving my vacation days. I'm just like, please tell me what
Same.
Fridays and Mondays
Same.
I need to take off, and
Same.
I will plan it out. But
Wait, hold on. Back up. You have to hold your vacation days. Don't you get to just do what you want with those? Like, isn't that the whole entrepreneur thing? It's like I got to do what I want.
uh, yeah, probably. But I'm still working another job, so I work a full-time job, and then I also work the shop at the
Oh,
uni.
that you're a psycho then. I had no idea on that one, but
Yeah,
um,
I quit my day job, and I was doing just the shop for about a year and a half. But um, I ran into some medical stuff, so I had
Yeah.
to go find a job with insurance again.
And again, fear. I can't do the entrepreneur thing because of the fear of stuff like that happening. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate you joining us today. Appreciate you giving us again some of the insight into the background of what goes on to making a TCG store work, or a hobby store shop work. And it's just cool to see all of the passion that we have in the community, and continuing to push it forward. And so lastly, again, if you want to, have some, massively competitive Lorcana tournaments with, big prizes, come check us out. Come try to beat Team Inkfinity. We're not easy to take down. So challenge, put out.
definitely. Yeah, you're not gonna find more competitive anywhere else. I mean, it's top of the cream of the crop here. I
Yeah,
mean,
I agree.
come on.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.
See you. Thank you for having me.